Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Forest Ecology Forum. The people in this room, the Staten Islanders in this room, really care about our forests. And that's why they've fought so hard for them over the years. And not long ago, the DEC, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, the Director Steve Zahn and Natural Resources Supervisor Ken Scolatelli reported to the Borough President that there were some threats and some really difficult challenges facing our forests. And the Borough President thought it was his responsibility to bring that information to you, which is what tonight is all about. With that, I would like to introduce to you now, it's my privilege, our Borough President, Jim Otto.
Good evening, everybody. I want everyone in this room and everyone who's going to hear this to understand, I don't want this to become another thing to divide us. Plenty of that going around. I don't want this to be another source for us to fight with each other. I want you all to help us figure out a way to change the status quo and alter the path that we are on. I want you to know that my goal is an earnest one, it's a genuine one. Our woodlands, the greenbelt, the parks are a part of who we are as Staten Islanders. Let's listen. Where we disagree, let's agree to disagree, and then let's agree to find common ground to alter the status quo, stop this bad path that we are on, and to do it as quickly as possible, because you're going to hear tonight we're running out of time. Let's make this a productive use of all of our time. Thank you very much.
Deer are part of an ecosystem, an important part of that ecosystem. And when you manage deer, you are managing the ecosystem. This whole thing about deer causing economic loss, let's just say yes and move on. This is a dated slide, but a lot of cars are hitting a lot of deer, causing a lot of damage, causing some mortalities. That's a big economic factor. How much do deer eat? They're eating each deer is eating between 5 and 9 pounds of vegetation every day. And that does have an impact. That's a lot of vegetation. I'll give you an example of the altering is we looked at some common wildflowers like trillium and Solomon seal, and we looked at the number of flowering plants in low deer density areas versus high deer density areas. You're hard pressed to find a trillium where you have a lot of deer. They love trillium. That's like cotton candy to them. One of the first things they'll eat out of an environment. They change the abundance of wildflowers just through their selective eating. All these studies showed increased native species and reduced invasive species. Getting rid of the deer helped you with your invasive story, and they helped you with your native plant story.
And so the take-home messages of this report were that there are almost 3 billion birds fewer now than there were in 1970, and they looked at 529 species. And it's significantly fewer than you would expect just from natural mortality. And I circled this because I know that other people were talking about deer, and this is one of the problems. And this is magnified. High deer populations cause significant damage to forest plants. And we heard some of those bird studies that show that birds do well when there are no deer eating all their plants.
And there are 7 species of butterflies that are species of greatest conservation need in New York State. That means they're under severe threat and actions need to be taken immediately to preserve them. Let's take a look at Butler Manor Woods, just to the west immediately of North Mount Loretto Unique Area. That area has been completely taken over by Japanese silkgrass. Nothing will germinate, nothing will grow, no trees, no shrubs, no wildflowers, none of the critters that depend on them will be able to live there anymore. Now, these are summer camps where kids come from the inner city in part to get acquainted with nature. And what's it going to be like when forests are silent. There are no frogs to catch and no turtles to wonder at, no foxes to see. So it's not just the campers, but, you know, it's picnickers. There's a reason that picnic table is sitting right next to the forest. And when the forest is gone and the birds that you can't no longer have your picnic and listen to and appreciate will be a lot poorer place.
In addition to our presenters who you've met, the Borough President, we have Cliff Hagan, Protectors of Pine Oak Woods President, Dr. Bonnie Johnson-Fritz, Greenbelt Conservancy Board President, Dr. Neo Antonis, PhD, Professor and Chair, Engineering and Environmental Science Department, College of Staten Island, Dr. Shen, Professor Chair, Biology Department, College of Staten Island, Patty Rafferty, Chief Resource Stewardship, Gateway National Recreation Area, Dr. Susan Booth Benzik, New York State Department, DEC, Wildlife Biologist, and Christy King, Director of Natural Resources, Restoration and Management, New York City Parks Department. Thank you all for being here, and we begin the Q&As now.
What other pressures are there on the forest besides deer, or are they truly the most significant threat? I think we've covered that to some degree, but we can go into more detail.
When you remove the deer are looking for the native species. That's what they want to eat. And when you remove the invasives and leave the natives behind, it's like you're putting an arrow saying, here they are, get them. And it's hard to do one thing without the other.
Many Staten Islanders feed deer. Is this harmful or beneficial to deer? Pasta fagioli is good for everyone, they say. And is it legal or illegal to feed deer?
It is illegal to feed deer. It is also a bad idea to feed deer. It's bad for the deer because what you're feeding them is not good for them. It's bad for your neighbors because you're attracting deer, which are causing problems, possibly enticing them to run across the road, bringing them into proximity to other people who may not want them there. And it's obviously bad for the environment because it's helping support large densities of deer, which aren't just eating whatever you may be feeding them, they're also eating the native plants and degrading the natural ecosystem.
Does the deer sterilization work? If yes, then why not upscale the current program? I have a distinct opinion, but I've hogged the mic. Does anyone want to talk about the current city program?
Just as the City of New York representative at the table, maybe. And I'm not personally involved with the program. I manage forests. I don't manage deer or study wildlife, but I learned a few things from my colleagues this week that made me feel pretty good. Most notably that there's been a 75% reduction in fawn births on Staten Island since the beginning of the program.
I'd like to note that, if all the bucks could be captured and given vasectomies, the remaining deer live 12 to 14 years, and we don't have that long because the forests are on a trajectory to be converted to stiltgrass within the next several years.
And from a biological perspective, as Ken pointed out, even if the sterilization reduces the deer population, because deer live a long time, it'll take time to have any impacts and on any beneficial impacts on the forest recovery. Whereas culling program in other places, forest recovery has been demonstrated at only 1 to 2 years after a cull. So if you actually reduce deer numbers, it doesn't necessarily take a long time.
To get this many Staten Islanders to be interested in this is it's good to see, and it's needed. So thank you for that. I will reiterate that I am open-minded. Anyone here, email me, Otto, Joddo, Otto at Staten Island, spell it out, USA.com. You have a way to help, you have a suggestion, we're open to it. I would say to the panelists, to all the professionals, thank you for what you do every day. Thank you for trying to help Staten Island in this fight that is worth fighting. And to Eddie Burke, you're the man, Eddie. Well done to you and the team. Thank you.